It's Friday, and I'm back with the next in our Fanzine Friday series. Today we're taking a look at the Beholder number 11. Please stick around. I'm AZ Mountaineer. This is our channel, Old School Rules, where we celebrate the community of old school gamers and grognards who like classic RPGs, miniatures magazines, and everything that goes with it. Each week on the Fanzine Friday series, I take a fanzine from my collection off the shelf for a closer look. And today, from 1980, this is the Beholder number 11. Hope you enjoy the video. We're continuing our look at the fanzine that was produced by Mike Stoner and Guy Duke out of the United Kingdom way back in the early part of 1980. This is the size we're used to. It's a heavy stock cover and the paper folded in half. This is the original printing version. That's a 45 pence version of that fanzine. Let's take a look at the cover art. This is by Quentin Manley, who we were introduced to back in the Demon's Blood fanzines, the videos that we did, when Andy Ravenscroft was writing articles and Quentin was illustrating for those. And a couple issues ago, Andy did an article and Quentin did some illustration, and I think that's, I'm just speculating, that's kind of how they got connected, I think. And then Quentin did a cover illustration for him here. It's this guy, looks like he's probably some type of magic user because his hand's sort of flaming. And it looks like, to me, he's probably killed either a dragon or some type of a dinosaur. But anyway, pretty cool illustration. Guy's looking a little bit like a berserker as well. So what do we have today? Not a lot of articles because some of them are kind of long. The editorial, an article on fatigue for D&D, some reviews, the Temple of Psaan, which is a short adventure, Quest, which is an article about the rules and running a D&D game, Ring of Fire, which is the full-length AD&D adventure, which is really good, Info, which is just some short information about how to get connected to other people in the hobby, and finally Monster Summoning returns with 4 or 5 new monsters this issue. Not many contributors. Guy and Michael do most of the writing. Keith Andrews authors one article, and then Quentin Manley does the cover art. So as you know by now, by watching other videos about it, the Beholder has different printings, and you can tell the printing based on the price. And so this first one here is 45 pence, and at this point, they've increased the base price so that there was no 40 pence version. So you have 45, 50, 55, I'm missing a picture of, and here's 60. Similar color. I'd say the original is more of an orangish color, and this is a little bit more of a yellowish color. So there's just a little bit of difference there. The price will be different up in this case, it's up in the top left, but all the contents of these are completely the same. So that's the only way you can tell the difference. In terms of our editorial, typical stuff about getting connected to them. More commentary on the Underworld Oracle, which was the original sort of big-time fanzine out in the UK. And he says, despite a rumor to the contrary, it is definitely over. Lou took over the whole job of running the magazine towards the end, and that's who you need to contact if you need more information. He says Phil's available, but he really can't help you. Phil Alexander can't really help you very much. Back issues continue to be available at this point. Issues 1, 2, 4, 9, 10. Issues 3, 5, 6, 7 coming soon. For some reason, issue 8 is not yet being reprinted with these. And all these now will be 45 pence. And I mentioned the drawing here is done by Quentin, not Guy, who normally did the covers for them. And then finally, we've got a number of Dungeon and Wilderness adventures, and we'll let you know, we might be putting one basically in every issue, but so it might take us a while to get to others. The first article here is on fatigue, and they basically take your strength and your constitution and your hit points. So you go on the chart with the strength and constitution, you find a number, then you add your hit points to that. And then that's your fatigue factor. It goes from a low of 20 to a high of 80. And as you go through the adventure, they have adjustments that you're supposed to make here. Fighting, anywhere from 2 to 4 points around, depending on how encumbered you are. A much slower rate of fatigue occurs for movement, a little bit of fatigue for spell casting. And then once your fatigue number, again, which remember maybe starts in the 50s, plus your hit points, it gets down to around 15 or lower, then you're slowed to 75%, 10 to 0, you're at 50%, and it can go negative You get negatives to hit, lowered on movement, and even maybe a chance it affects your armor class and your ability to cast spells as well. So that's their idea. I get it, it makes some sense. I'm not crazy about this. Some of the stuff gets a little too crunchy for me, but that's their concept. They have a very, very short review here of the Solo Dungeon by Brian Hennigan. This is an early third-party product. It looks like this. They gave it a 6.5 out of 10 possible points. Then we have our first adventure. It's called the Temple of Psaan. I thought this one was pretty well done. Psaan, the bloodthirsty sea god, was once of considerable power with many faithful followers and temples. However, he failed to notice the rise of other sea gods who combined to overthrow him, and all of his temples now lie broken and ruined, places of dark atmosphere, avoided by those of any sense. A man with reason to hide would find one of these old temples an ideal site to set up his home, her home. This particular temple has been taken over by the mage Maldivius, who seeks seclusion for his magical experiments and has excavated a labyrinth home beneath the ruins. The party of explorers have been called in by the rumors in a nearby village of strange lights and sounds from the temple at night, which are a result of his experiments that he's carrying out up on the main level of the altar. And so you've come to investigate this temple. The temple's up here at the top. It's just a rectangular building. You're going to look around up there and basically need to find that you can slide that altar and find some steps down. There's an older part that's basically carved out immediately below the temple. Some guard rooms, some traps, and if you follow it through, there's also an opening out that overlooks the sea. That's the old part. And then he has carved in this sort of labyrinth in the middle, and then some new chambers down here for his own private area. So there's some interesting stuff to work through there. It's pretty well done. It's kind of short, although the labyrinth and some of the other stuff might take you a while, so this could easily take, with a party, a few hours. It's pretty straightforward. Like, you're just going to move from room to room, find your way to the labyrinth, find your way through, fight your way potentially through his guards or minions, if you will, and then try to find your way to his lair so you can capture him or take his stuff. Quest is an article. This is the article by Keith Andrews, and he's got several just thoughts sort of jumbled together here. His first one's on alignment. He doesn't like it. He says his players don't like it, and frankly, they feel like maybe you shouldn't even use it anymore in your campaign. He has a complaint he wants to just throw out there about the Gygax attitude expressed in the DMG, and says, I think about the stuff, what's official and what's not. And so he says, well, maybe we need to send him copies of the Beholder to ask him to give it his divine approval. And he says, frankly, the scenarios and information contained in the Beholder is usually much better than the stuff we're getting out from the official stuff, especially the official Judges Guild products. He doesn't hold those in nearly so high regard. He also is not a fan of some of the combat techniques. He doesn't like the surprise. He doesn't like initiative. He said they play with 10-second rounds. He says initiative, this is his interesting idea, I guess. Initiative on the first round, longest weapon, furthest striking distance, like spears or polearms or whatever, right, would get to go first in the first round. And then from there on, speed rating of your weapon goes first. So no die rolls. So people who attack with short weapons generally have a lower speed rating, and they're going to get to go first. Now, then the editor, Mike Stoner, throws in, well, if you're doing it that way, maybe people with a really low speed factor should get to attack, every 2. So like the speed factor is 2, he says you get to go in segment 2. He says, why don't you get to go again on 4, 6, and 8 or 10, right? But that's not this guy's idea. And then finally, he mentions living dungeons. He thinks that this concept of living dungeons, remember last time they talked about the idea, sort of the cohesion, everything makes sense, it's logical, the monsters that are there for a reason that you can sort of explain, a little bit more realistic, right? He says he didn't like it. It sounds like it ends up being boring because it's just goblins and more goblins and more goblins in a goblin cave. He'd much rather do sort of a zoo dungeon with just random stuff stuck in there. So again, that's just one guy's opinion. Then finally, he's got this idea to do for your mapping, and he says you basically want to get something, has your floor plan, and get some 1-inch squares sort of You get your graph paper under there attached to a piece of cardboard or something heavy, and then get some clear sticky plastic over top so you can see through it and you can see the graph paper. You can mark on it and then dry, basically sort of like dry erase it and clean it off. It's his early version of a sort of player's mat, right? Which later on, of course, companies will produce those where you could write right on the map and then wipe the surface off. And then finally, he's got some advice here for painting, just kind of random, right? Painting miniatures. And he goes through the different brushing techniques and so forth that he uses. Here's our adventure. Different. I like it a lot. It's called the Ring of Fire. And here's our maps. The Ring of Fire is a volcano. And so you're going to start off with the elevation map in the top left. It shows you how you get to do the approach, and there's a little pathway on there you can see. And then when you get close, as I understand how this works, you go up to the top, and then there's a pathway that goes around the edge of the volcano, and you follow that around. And as you go around, there are these rectangles that are lettered A, B, C, D, and you have to sort of go through each of these encounter areas to keep going on the path and keep winding your way down. Without giving too much away, you basically wind your way all the way down, and then there's a little something you can do down at the very bottom of the volcano to do some more exploring. It's quite good, quite good. That one, it's not, those lettered sections are not hugely, going back up, those lettered sections are not hugely complicated. So you could probably play this in one long session, multi-hour weekend kind of session, I think, for sure. Info, just some different people looking to get together with people who play different games. Traveler, D&D, and then Dorking Wargame Group, which is Mike Stoner's group, is looking for players as well. And there is a week-long event called the 1980 Primrose Valley Modeling and Wargaming Holiday. That is a pretty long convention. That's it. Because the articles are kind of long, this one is kind of short, but it's really good. It's packed full of awesome stuff. And again, this is the Beholder number 11, and it came out in 1980. Hope you guys are enjoying the series. Hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope you're subscribed. If you've got friends who might be interested in our content, please send it our way. Hopefully they'll be active members of the community, subscribers, and help us continue to grow the size of those who are looking at these old products with us together. Have a great Friday. Have a great weekend. Until next time, my friends, keep rolling 20s.